Hey everybody, if any of you don't know, I'm an avid Resident Evil enjoyer, a big fan if you will. Ever since I was a wee lad, I've always liked the series. I can still say that, it is my second favorite game series. Something about old school zombies and tragic and dire situations and stopping bioorganic weapons to stop bioterrorism just resonated with me. That, and the characters are just actually likable. When it comes to Resident Evil, I can say that I do enjoy the older ones more, as I do like the puzzle solving and item management to the game. Don't get me wrong though, I do also like the later games like the newest ones with first person like 7 and 8, and even Revelations. And yes, even 5 and 6, as they were nice games to wrap up the story involving Wesker, and also showing what everyone is doing outside of the main story, while also trying to tie up some loose ends, I guess. However, this video isn't going to be about me talking about why every game has its perks and why they aren't all that bad, which I should probably do because I do kind of like 6 and 5 a lot, but people don't like that one, those two. I don't understand why. I just don't understand. I mean, I guess it's because it's not horror anymore, but 5 and 6 still aren't that bad of a game, like as far as I know. I'll actually be using this video to talk about a little gem that Capcom made a while back. That was a pretty good and fun idea. Today, I'll be talking about the two games that Capcom made for the Resident Evil series that made a pretty good rail shooter in the comfort of your own home. Those titles are Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles and Darkside Chronicles. Also, to give you some context on why I got into this genre of video games, rail shooters, just picture this if you will. A younger me walking around an arcade knowing well enough that I'll never be able to hit any big jackpots on any of the games, so I won't be able to get anything good at the prize corner. Big surprise. So knowing that, I use my points wisely on things that will bring me some joy in the arcade, something that'll bring fun. So while wondering what to play, I see it out of the corner of my eye and gasp in awe. There it is, Time Crisis 3. Now wait, I know you're probably wondering why I brought up a Namco title, but just hear me out. Time Crisis is a series that literally got me into the rail shooter genre. Not to mention, I was actually pretty lucky growing up as a kid, as I was actually able to play Time Crisis 1 and 2 at the comfort at my grandparents' house, as my grandmother actually had the setup to play it on her own PS2. Yeah, that's right, I come from a family of gamers, I know, I'm pretty cool. Anyway, back to the story. As I was playing Time Crisis 3 at the arcade, I was having the time of my life as I got to play a new Time Crisis game. Until I realized, damn, I kinda suck at this game. In due time, younger me, in due time you will know when your time will come. That time was right now. After completely getting destroyed at Time Crisis 3, I was able to hear the sound of screaming and what sounded like moaning around the corner. I know it sounds weird to describe it that way, I know, but it's literally what it was, because on the other side was House of the Dead 2. If any of you youngins don't know, an arcade is a place with a lot of games, and the games have demo videos to show what the game is, while also having some audio to go with it. That's why I heard what I heard. So, I know it sounded sus, but just know that's why I explained it that way. So, yeah, Sega also had their own rail shooter, light gun game, whatever you want to call it. And that's right, it's got zombies in it, so my mind was blown away. You mean to tell me it only cost me like 7 points, and I say points because back in my day, yeah that's right, cards weren't a thing yet. They weren't as big of a thing like they are now where you put points on a card. I actually had to use money, but we're just gonna generalize it and sum it around. I think it would be equal to 7 points now maybe at an actual arcade nowadays, but let's say I think it was like $1 to play it. Maybe $1.50. I don't remember exactly how much, but yeah, let's just say it cost me like 7 points to shoot at some zombies. You mean to tell me it only cost me 7 points to point a gun at a screen and shoot some zombies? Take all my points. Just take it. Take it. I don't need any more.
What is that, bro?
And as a kid, I was actually pretty good at it. I mean, it's easier when you have enemies that can't shoot at you like Time Crisis does. However, as much as I loved the two series, I was only able to play it in the arcade. Until one fateful day, us Wii owners were able to get our own hands on something interesting. Released on November 13th, 2007, Resident Evil fans were given the first game in the series, Umbrella Chronicles. This was Capcom's take on how the Resident Evil series would do a pretty good job as a rail shooter. And not to mention, it's a game that covers the STARS team, giving us scenarios from Resident Evil 0, 1, and 3, and even an exclusive scenario only to the game that literally explains the story of how Chris and Jill took down the evil corporation Umbrella. This was a thing only talked about through tidbits in lore, in multiple games, and in some documents from the original games. This game showed us exactly how the fall of Umbrella happened. With scenarios involving the first 3 games, it can be seen as a nice little crash course for people who didn't really play them, and it's nice for the OG fans of Resident Evil who did play them to see how it relates to the original story, as each story was chopped up into 3 segments and reworked a little because now you have 2 people with you. In the original games, you're only traveling alone, so they had to work around that. If they wanted to make it 2 players, it makes sense. They changed up the story in little tidbits, where some places has a second person tagging along because it's a 2-player game. So if you were to choose the first story, which is based around Resident Evil 1, the first scenario has Chris and Jill working together through the whole Resident Evil 1 scenario, instead of just being separated like in the original. With 3 scenarios to play either by yourself or with a friend, you're able to wreak havoc to multiple zombies and BOWs, along with being able to find new weapons scattered along the area to pick up to help you out in the damage department. Not to mention, all the weapons you find in the scenario are then saved in the armory menu, or customization menu, whatever you want to call it. It's only available outside the levels, where you can then upgrade them to make them stronger. Do so by how well you do in the actual scenarios, as you need a certain number of stars points to pay for the next upgrade, so your skill actually matters in the end, as it could help you get enough to upgrade a weapon you think will be good for later. Depending what weapons are in your armory, you could choose to take one with you before you go into the level. So by the end of the game, you have a whole armory to choose from, but choose wisely. You only get to bring one. Another thing you can do in the game is just destroy the environment. You could either throw a grenade, or whether it be by shooting your surroundings, you'll be able to find something. By doing this, you are able to find the collectibles. That's the something. The collectibles are actually pretty cool in this game. When you destroy a room, you have a chance of finding documents and files that explain the lore, the characters, and everything that happened in the background of the story. Not to mention, you're also able to unlock extra missions that lets you play as other characters that are relevant to the said scenario. So for example, like in the Resident Evil 1 scenario, you're actually able to unlock a side mission that lets you play as Wesker, and shows how he was able to escape from the explosion of the Spencer Mansion. With the amount of unlockables and upgrades, there's a lot of replayability for Umbrella Chronicles. However, in 2 years, on November 17, 2009, we were then given a sequel that covers Resident Evil 2, Code Veronica, and another exclusive scenario, just like Umbrella Chronicles. The Dark Side Chronicles gave us an exclusive story that takes place before Resident Evil 4, called Operation Javier. A story that gives a look at what happened to Leon after Resident Evil 2, and we see him on a mission as a new agent for the US government. And along with him, we are able to see Jack Krauser as his partner. That's right people, if you played Resident Evil 4 and were wondering who Krauser even was, well now you know. The game gives us some backstory to Krauser to explain why he is an enemy in Resident Evil 4, because that's right folks, we actually get another small scenario in the game. Although we don't get a lot of side missions like we did in the first one, we were given another special scenario that follows Krauser, and explains how he started working for Wesker, and why he was infatuated with the viruses. In Darkness Falls, Krauser narrates his thoughts while fighting along with Leon, and then seeks out Wesker. Something small, but somewhat enough to give this character a backstory, instead of just showing up randomly in RE4. However, not bad, but not as good as the first one. In my own opinion, for a sequel, it's not bad. Another small crash course for those who didn't play Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica. Nice exclusive scenario to play to give more to the lore. However, what kind of breaks it for me is the armory and upgrading for me. When it comes to this game's upgrading, it's not as good as the first one. You use actual money in this game to upgrade your weapons, instead of upgrading with currency you get from your skill. You use something you can get easily in every mission, instead of working hard and trying your best in every level to get enough points. And the armory is just given you in the pause menu, and you could switch weapons mid-game instead of finding them and saving stuff for when you need it the most. It makes enemies and bosses too easy to fight, as if you run out of ammo in the middle of a boss fight, all you would do is pause, switch to another weapon, and continue. Rinse and repeat until you either run out of special ammo or even beat the boss. Not to mention, herbs are now a collectible item, so you can heal when you feel like it instead of finding them like you do in the first game. In light gun games, you go through a level and find new weapons as you go. The same with healing items. You use the heals immediately. I think that's why UC did it better, as you are able to manage your resources wisely since you didn't know when you would get another weapon to help if you ran out of ammo for the one you have right now. For herbs, if you use them when you find them, you use them to heal, just immediately. So you could be doing really well with full health, but you find an herb, but that just means you're doing really well. It's a way to tell you that, hey, you're actually pretty good and you don't need this right now. So having it in Resident Evil Dark Side Chronicles is kind of easy mode. Like, you just get to store health items, and that's not what really light gun games do. I guess it's because they're programmed to take coins from you, or sorry, points now. Sorry, it's been a minute since I've actually used a quarter for an arcade game, but yeah, like, the light gun games are designed to be hard and to take quarters from you. And I guess that's why I see it that way. I was growing up with skill with light gun games, I guess. I don't want to say it like that because then I sound too high on my horse for that. But I'm ranting on now. I'm not even explaining it. I think that's why Umbrella Chronicles did it better, as you are able to manage your resources wisely since you don't know when you get another weapon, pretty much. Same with the herbs. It takes away from the light gun rail shooter game it was originally. However, I'm not saying this makes the game worse. While I can point out why I like the first better, I can still see it as its own thing. First can be somewhat more akin to the ones in the arcade, while the second one can be seen as a light gun game that was specifically made for playing at home, as saving up all your healing items for bosses doesn't sound like it would do too good at eating up all your quarters at the arcade. Or sorry, points. I gotta get used to that. Both games are good in their own way. Both have good exclusive scenarios that relate to the overall lore of Resident Evil, and even answer some questions as well. Both have cool weapons that are exclusive to each other, like Umbrella Chronicles having the Killer 7 Magnum, and Dark Side Chronicles having the literal FIM Sting rocket launcher, the rocket launcher of anime, as I like to call it. Yeah, I don't know why, but when it comes to anime, they either choose to use the basic RPG-7 or this one for some reason, and this game got it. I don't know why I know that, but okay, I do know why I know that, but that's because the only reason I know that is because I used to watch Ghost in the Shell. All right, I outed myself. All right, I like older anime. Okay, I'm an OG. It's one of my favorite old school animes. But anyway, I'm rambling on. But back to the main topic, so I can wrap this video up. Pretty much, TLDR, I think both games are good. One better than the other, but that's my own opinion. And while there is gameplay of these games online, I feel like there isn't a lot of people actually talking about it. I strongly believe that there should have been a third game covering the 4th and 5th, and probably even the Revelations games. However, that will sadly just be a dream of mine, and something that is very unlikely to happen. But hey, a man can dream, right?